This is Wrestling Hub. My name is John, and you're watching the Wrestling Report for December 14th. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Wrestling Hub Official, and also follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. After a years-long story, Hangman Page would end up defeating Kenny Omega at Full Gear to win the AEW World title. Now, after capturing the belt, Page has talked to Renee Paquette about whether he's frustrated from not wrestling. It's great. It's a little surreal. I don't think it'll ever sink in at this point. It's also a little frustrating because I've worked so hard for so long and won this championship, and I have not gotten to wrestle a match since I won it. It's been 3 or 4 weeks and I've been asking for a match with Bryan Danielson since after the pay-per-view, and I haven't gotten to wrestle. It's kind of frustrating as well. I'm sure it feels that way for people in other sports. You win the Super Bowl and then you just don't play football for a long time, which is not what I want at all. So it's a little frustrating. Otherwise, an incredible feeling. An incredible feeling to know that myself, what I put into everything that AEW started, it wasn't rejected. It was embraced and helped me achieve something. It could have went the other way where people shit on who you are. You become so vulnerable and try something different, but it worked. So it's an incredible feeling. For Dynamite this week, Page will be wrestling against Bryan Danielson, with this serving as Hangman's first title defense. Since making his return to pro wrestling and debuting for AEW, CM Punk has been appearing and wrestling on the shows frequently. Still, many have been critical of Punk facing low-profile opponents, as Disco Inferno had this to say on Keeping It 100. Punk's matches are fine. They all make sense based on the story they're telling us, but it is really flat. This is the biggest mistake the company has made. If you actually think that promoting CM Punk versus Lee Moriarty is going to get people interested in watching that segment, I just disagree with you. And I think the numbers show that nobody really cares about watching CM Punk fighting Lee Moriarty. When he does fight more credible opponents, you will see more people watching because fans are more involved in better things. Now, Punk is in the middle of a feud with MJF, as it'll be interesting to see where this program goes. When it comes to the topic of who will replace Vince McMahon, many see Stephanie McMahon and Triple H stepping up for that role in the future. Speaking of the McMahon family, former WWE referee Mike Chioda was asked about the relationship between the family members. When asked if anyone told Triple H that dating Vince McMahon's daughter was a bad idea, he revealed that Shane was the one to do so. Yes, Shane did advise Triple H against dating Stephanie. Shane McMahon did. That's why the feud fell out. That's for sure. It was a thing from Vince Sr. that came around many years ago. They didn't want anybody dating talent. None of the kids and none of their family. He didn't want them taking bumps, which that didn't happen. I think Shane really had a big part of that, and that's why Shane and Triple H had a falling out for many years, and that's why Shane was exiled for 10 years. Shane is still not on the top of the list. Where is he at now? Is he in the office? Is he running things? Is he vice president? Is he vice CEO? Can somebody tell me where he's at right now, because he should be there? I mean, even with Triple H out, you're going to have John Laurinaitis, Road Dogg, and Scott Armstrong running the business. You're not going to have Shane McMahon there. Where is he at? It's boggled me for many years too. A lot of heat there. It gets more interesting, believe me. It's sad because when I started working for this company, there was Linda McMahon, Vince McMahon, Shane McMahon, and Stephanie McMahon, and now it seems to be all broken apart. All the money in the world probably can't fix it. They have all the money in the world, a publicly traded company, which is okay. The family is torn apart at this point, I think. Maybe not torn apart all the way, which I hope not, but it's torn apart. With him still recovering from his heart procedure, it was recently reported that Triple H is likely never going to wrestle again. The formation of AEW has led to a recharging of the pro wrestling industry, as WWE Hall of Famer Mick Foley told Wrestling Inc. that AEW puts pressure on WWE to do the right thing. I saw some financial figures as to what it was worth when Tony began his venture and what it's worth now, so it has been a remarkably successful company, but I think it's just part of a broader movement where people just want to see wrestling. I could be wrong, because maybe during the height of the territories, there was a better time to be a wrestler, but it's a really good time to be a wrestler. wrestler. I think I put a Facebook post out that I always resented the term that Bill Watts used when he talked about it being a buyer's market. I thought it sounded cold and calculated and made wrestlers sound like soybean futures instead of human beings. But if it was a buyer's market in '93, I believe it's a seller's market. Anything that's good for the men and women, I used to say collectively, anything that's good for the boys. But I think we have to specify the men and women, because the women are such a huge part of our business now. The better that is for everybody. I think it's good for WWE when they meet with talent and the talent decides to go elsewhere, because it puts pressure on them to do the right thing. Following his release from WWE, Jeff Hardy has now commented on the situation. As a user on Twitter noted, Jeff Hardy said on Matt's Twitch stream that he would love to do an Ultimate Deletion tag match with Matt Hardy one day. For those unaware, Jeff was taking part in a live event tag team match where he appeared to look sluggish in the ring before tagging out and leaving through the crowd with security, which led to his release. Matt Hardy previously noted that his brother is doing fine and has even hinted at the two reuniting in AEW. Also, there has been a rumor floating around about Jeff wanting to be released, as Fightful reported. It seems silly to address this at all, but according to those close with him I spoke to, Jeff Hardy wasn't trying to get fired from WWE. He wasn't working to get out of his deal. The exact phrase I was given was that it was an absurd take. Matt Hardy would add during his Twitch stream, saying, "Before anyone rushes to judgment, obviously WWE drug tested him after all this stuff. Wait until you hear the results of that, and when that comes back clean, then hopefully people will feel better about it." Another report previously noted that Jeff Hardy appeared to be acting normal prior to the match and seems sober, as we hope everything is going well for him. While there was a tag team match between the Mysterios and the Street Profits set up for Raw, it has been postponed. As Dave Meltzer noted on Wrestling Observer Radio, they couldn't do it because something is up with Ford. I don't know what it is. They said that both teams were injured. Ford, for whatever it is, Ford, there's something up with him. I don't know if it's up with Ray and Dominic, but I know there's something up with Ford, so they can't do the match. I don't know if it's injury or whatever. I'll probably know more tomorrow, but they could not do this match. They knew. I can tell you that they knew by Saturday. So they were slow on the draw to tell people the match was off. With her last match being from SummerSlam of last year, Sonya Deville wants to get back in the ring in a big way, as she told TalkSport. "I've yet to have my singles match at WrestleMania, and that's obviously a goal of mine in the near future. There's so many scenarios that I would love. I've always said that I would love to face Becky Lynch because I just think the dichotomy of her character and my character would be so cool. There would be a lot of large energy in the room, and I think that would be a really cool matchup." With Ring of Honor closing up shop at the end of the year to reimagine the company, every wrestler from that roster ended up being released. On Busted Open Radio, Bully Ray noted that Ring of Honor made more stars than any other wrestling promotion. Pound for pound, Ring of Honor has created more stars of today than any other company. We talk about ECW and how ECW changed the landscape of a wrestling business. Very few ECW guys came out of ECW and were considerably more successful than they were in ECW as Ring of Honor. I mean, the list goes on, from the Samoa Joes to the AJ Styles to the Seth Rollinses to the CM Punks, yada yada. Star after star after star, and that's why so many other companies, including NXT in its early days, mimicked everything that went on in Ring of Honor, because ROH was truly giving wrestling fans an alternative in-ring style to what they were seeing in WWE. With a former ROH World Champion and Jay Lethal a part of AEW and the Briscoes expected to make the jump for a match against FTR, we'll have to see where the rest of these stars end up. Many have noted the creative freedom that is present in AEW, as Tony Khan went on the Wrestling Perspective to talk about how his stars have more legroom creatively than those in other companies. I think we found a really good balance. I have a lot of trust in them and they have a lot of trust in me. What it entails is I put together formats, matches, and stories, and where their ideas are going to go. Stories are going to go, who's going to wrestle who, and one really important element of this is how much time they're going to get. Also, I have to be very concerned about commercial breaks and where they go. though. In terms of who goes when, who gets to wrestle who, and when it happens, there's a lot to that. But in terms of what you're going to wear, what your presentation is going to be, what you're going to say exactly, that's on talent. Sure, you need to say I'm wrestling person X at this venue next week on this show, this night on TNT, or I'm wrestling person ABC at Full Gear on Saturday on pay-per-view. There are important things, and as long as you get those things across and do it in a way that makes sense, I'm okay not handing somebody a paper script and telling them you're going to say this, this, and this in this order, and every word of it, you can't change a word of it. That doesn't make any sense to me, and it would come across very fake, which is why I think the promos in AEW are very authentic and it feels very real. At an independent wrestling event, YouTuber and wrestler Hannibal attacked a referee, Lance Del Toro. While Hannibal claims it was a part of the show, many of those there claim otherwise. Del Toro's head would end up gouged with a spike, as it was further noted by Fightful. For those asking about why charges weren't pressed, we're told that's still a possibility. In asking those who worked the show, we're told that Nicholson, Hannibal, had personally reached out to Del Toro to set up the spot. A wrestler that worked on the show, Clayton Bloodstone, gave details on what transpired. They planned a blade spot, but Hannibal took it much further. I guess the ref's blade wasn't working, and Hannibal began stabbing him in the head multiple times. The ref went immediately to the hospital. We all thought he was going to die. Many of the guys in the back were very visibly shaken from it. Hannibal gave zero fucks. He acted like it wasn't a big deal. He was in his RV pretty much the whole time before his match. The ref that reffed his match believed he was intoxicated and warned Carlito, who was working Hannibal, to be careful and end the match ASAP. And this was your Pro Wrestling News Update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.